to sew the pocket bag, the facing onto the pocket bag. When you're doing this, you're going to have a right and a left. So I would do everything in sets of 2s so that you always have a mirror image. Okay, so this is the face. This is sitting inside, so I should see the facing on the inside. Okay. So I'm going to pre-press the edge under 1/4 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to lay it right on top of the pocket bag. The top. This is the opening. Okay. I'm going to top stitch right on the edge. And I'm going to go slow. This is like our first sewing project, so I'm going to go slow and then just gauge. I don't, some of you I haven't had before. So I'm going to go slow the first week on sewing and then see, how we're doing. I can pick up the pace in a minute too. So we're just stitching right on the edge of the folded side. 1/4 inch. It's not 1/4 inch. We're folding it at 1/4. And we're top stitching right on the edge. Now I want to stay stitch it in place, so I'm just going to go around the whole thing right on the edge. When you're stay stitching, which means making it stay or stay in place, you always want to do it inside of the seam allowance line. Okay? I'm just going about 1/8 of an inch in. Just holds everything in place nicely. You're not even going to see that. We have a couple of people, if you see anyone in here you don't recognize, my Monday class has their makeup tonight. So there's a few people that couldn't make it and they're here now. So just if you see someone. Now, the room is not open to everyone tonight because I have my makeup, but if you guys want to stay in here and use the sewing machines, you can. You can't be on the table, but if you want to be sewing, you can stay in here and then I'm here anyway. Okay? So it would be a good idea. Alright, so this is on here. Now we're going to sew it to the opening. I already pre-clipped this, but you don't need to clip that yet. We're going to sew it to the opening here, line it up, make sure your sides match. Okay. Do you guys want me to push the machine out so you can get more? I'll do it next time. We'll do it for the next time. I'm a little bit against the wall here. Okay, so we're sewing it to the opening at 1/4 inch. Now you're not sewing it to the end. I'm sewing it to the seam allowance line. So if this is 3/8 here, I'm going to stop at my 3/8 line. I should actually have a notch right at the top. Okay? Sew it to the opening in 1/4. Remember, I'm stopping at my sew line there. Back stitch. Okay. And then I'm going to do an understitch. Now I'm also going to clip into the corner. I already did it. But I'm going to clip right to the sew line. Everyone see how I clipped? There's a clip there. The reason I need that is because if I don't clip it, I won't be able to flip this to the inside. See how now it flips inside, okay? Be very careful when you clip, because you could clip too much. If you look at the picture, you can see how they clipped also. Okay, now we're going to open it flat, and we're going to do an understitch. Okay. So we're going to pull that seam allowance to the facing, and stitch on the facing. So when I say understitch is inside. It's something that you don't see. It's not a design element. It's something to help make the crease on an edge. Now if I were doing a top stitch would be putting them together and stitching on top. Right? And sometimes people say edge stitch. Edge stitch just it would mean a top stitch that's close to the edge. Sometimes people interchange it, but try to just, if it's understitch, it's inside. Alright, so I'm pulling the seam allowance towards the facing, getting this nice and flat, stitching right on the edge, and this should be about a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. On the facing. With my thumb, I'm going to pull that seam allowance towards the facing. Again, I'm only going to the stitch line. You don't need to go further. Okay. So now I can easily press this in, and it's not pulling on the corner here. Alright? So let's go to the next step. Now we're going to sew the side panel onto the pocket bag. So this is going to sit inside here, right? So I'm going to flip it out this way. So this and this are going to sew together. Remember, we should have a notch for the fold line. Alright. This and this are going to sew together. Now, when I don't want to see the seam allowance inside the pocket, so it's going to go out this way. Okay, so we're going to sew these two together at the bottom. And what's our seam allowance there? Does anyone remember? One at once. I'm trying to keep you alert, so you all stay awake. Okay. I'll go over what seams need to be overlocked later. I just want you to get the pocket, and I kind of want you to just worry about the sewing today. Okay, so this is going to go inside. Alright, I'm going to press this seam open, and I'm actually going to press this down. I'm going to press the opening of the pocket down. Okay, so let me just run over the iron.